Hello, hello, hello. This is the Double A Club, and this is NYC Boom bringing you another episode. And I have an incredible woman who has a phenomenal story that she needs to share with everybody. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Doriscarmen.
Hello, Doriscarmen and Doriscarmen, right?
Doriscarmen.
No, okay.
Yes.
Okay, and you're from Puerto Rico, right?
I'm from Chicago. I grew up in Humboldt Park area.
Okay, but you're Puerto Rican descent.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great, great. So let's start off. I want you to start off from the beginning with your story. Tell us how it all started.
Well, I met uh, a young man through a house partying, and I saw him at the party. He saw me. We hit it off on MySpace. Um, Being that we were young, it was platonic, I would say, kind of encounter, like como un amor platónico.
Hmm?
We would call each other, we would message each other, and it got to a point where, we would meet up. I had a strict mom. My mom didn't play that, los nenes you stay away from. Um, she was very adamant about, boys and getting pregnant. Teen pregnancy did encounter in our family, so she didn't want that to happen again. So I met this guy. We were talking for a while, and eventually, I started lying to my mom about meeting up with him. Le decía que me iba a ir con las amigas, y you know it got to a point where we were secretly dating. um he told me that he was 18 and I was 15 at the time. I was going from freshman year to sophomore year, and um, I ended up getting pregnant. My mom found out. She was very upset. When she found out that he was 18, it was a big deal. Lo quería mandar a la cárcel. She didn't. She wasn't very happy with it. I tried to express to my mom, like, I don't want the abortion route. And as well, I didn't want him to go to jail. Can you hear me?
Yeah, keep going.
You can hear me?
Yes, keep going.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want the abortion route, and I told my mom, like, I don't want to do the abortion, and it's not fair for the baby, and I don't want to send him to jail. Like, there's other ways to it. Um, at that point, when I found out that I was pregnant, I went to him with the ultrasound. I told him, hey, look, you're the only person that I've been with. I'm pregnant, and we have to figure this out because my mom's ready to take you to jail, you know? Long story short, I end up going to his parents. I told them, like, hey, I'm 15. I'm young. I need your son to be in this with me. He agreed. He agreed to be there for my baby. We end up moving in together. When we moved in together, he was like normal, like he was kind of happy. It wasn't a situation where, we're like, okay, let's have a baby. So it was kind of like, in both ways, it was like, okay, well, we have to make this work because it's, there's a baby on the way. So I ended up moving in with him, and his family was just, they made my life hell.
So
Um,
his family made
they're
it difficult.
Honduran.
Yeah, his
So
family made it
being
difficult.
that
They
they're
didn't support you.
Honduran, and me being Puerto Rican, they didn't like that.
Mm.
When I talked to his family, he told me that he was 18. Um, I end up getting more information. he said that when we met, he said that he was Puerto Rican and that he was 18, and it ended up being that he wasn't 18 and he wasn't Puerto Rican. He ended up being Honduran. He wasn't 18. His cousin actually told me that he was 20. And I kept fishing, like, no, you need to tell me the truth. Some are telling me that he was 20, some were telling me that he was 24. So at this point, I'm freaking out. Like, I'm pregnant by somebody that I don't know. Um, Ends up being that he's Honduran. He's 21, turning 22. Um, it ended up being that he had a letter of deportation that I didn't even know about.
Wow.
So at this point, I'm 15, scared, don't know this man apparently. And now I got to worry about what the fuck is my daughter going to do in Honduras if he were to get deported. And I'm thinking about this all when I'm 15, scared as fuck. When this happened, I talked to my family and I'm like, I don't want to, I don't want to get rid of this baby. It's not the baby's fault. It was my fault. I should have listened and I shouldn't have, went behind my mom's back and did the stuff that I did. These are my consequences. I made my bed and I should lie in it. Um, Within 3 months of the baby being born,
Yeah.
the family was just very hostile, saying que, Puerto Rican women, they pin their babies on everybody. And they were just treating me like trash, treating me like garbage. ¿Qué pasa?
So they didn't have a reason for it?
As the months went by, he didn't have a steady job. He wasn't really, you know, um, he wasn't making any money. And my family was like, okay, well, let me give him an opportunity. They were working in downtown Chicago. And they're like, okay, well, let's get him in a good paying job so that way he can provide for his baby. I end up having him work at my sister's job, and that's when everything started to change. He was getting drunk, la mujer, just lying, cheating, and I end up breaking up with him. Being the time that I broke up with him, I moved with my mom. Um, but I was still in chula with him. I was still in love with him. He's the father of my child. I want to make this work. So I would still look like we would still look for each other. Um, with that being said, that's when I end up getting pregnant with my second son. So we're like back and forth, together, not together, you know, but for the sake of the babies, like we wanted to try to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
¿Qué pasa? I end up finding out that I'm pregnant with my second child, which is a boy. My first was a girl, and then my second one was a boy. And the moment that I tell him that I'm pregnant, he's laughing at me. He's like, I know. And I'm like, what do you mean you know? He's like, yeah, I purposely got you pregnant. I'm like, that's
What?
not that's not something to be, like it's not funny.
He wasn't being funny.
Whatever. So now I'm stuck with two babies. It's kind of rocky. We're
How?
trying to make it work. I
How?
was 17
Yeah.
when I got
Okay.
pregnant with my son. So I
All
was
right.
in senior year when I was pregnant with my
Damn.
son.
Two babies
And
already, and you haven't graduated yet. Two babies already, and you haven't graduated high school.
so
Yeah. Okay. Keep
so I
going.
was with the second one, and I was battling school. My mom was like, "No, yo no te voy a ayudar. This is your second one. Tú no aprendiste de la primera." And I'm like, "But I love this man. Like I love him with all my heart, and like he said he wanted to be with me, and I'm over here trusting him like, okay, well, I had the first one, I had the second one. Now it's like it's now or never, like like he has to assume his responsibilities. Y él como pendejo me dijo, okay, pues, I purposely got you pregnant. Okay, well, you purposely got me pregnant. Now you have to make it work. not forcing it, pero era como un infatuation. Like, no quería estar conmigo, pero no quería que yo estuviera con nadie.
Mm-hmm.
By then, he was trying to fix his papers, and I'm like, look, you have to figure out this letter of deportation. Like, I'm on my second child, and we can't keep doing this. Like, you need to fix something because I have no parts in Honduras. I don't have no family over there, and I'm not gonna travel over there if they were to deport you. ¿Qué pasa? I'm pregnant with my baby. I was probably 6 months with my boy, and I end up getting married with him. Mind you, I went behind my parents' back. I went behind my family's back. The only people that were at my marriage in City Hall were his family. Um, ¿Qué pasa? When everybody found out, oh, they were so freaking mad. They were so mad at me. Nadie me quería hablar.
I bet.
They were so disappointed at that point because they're like, Chacho, no te quería ayudar con la primera. Va y te embaraza con el segundo. Like, something has to give, or at least keep the family in loop. So because I got married with him, and it was more like sole purpose of fixing his letter of deportation. ¿Qué pasa? We get married. He gets a carta de perdón from Luis Gutierrez. He ends up getting his DACA because he was here from since he was 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So he fled from Honduras because they were literally there. Lo dejaron descuartizado con un machete. So they uprooted from Honduras and they came over here. So from then they had found him in McAllen, Texas. So that's where he got the deportation from. So they end up giving him the DACA. They end up giving him a working permit, a social. So from there, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna help you, so that way you can help us in a family sense.
Yeah.
¿Qué pasa? The cheating, the lying.
Continue.
It got to a point where he was working 2 jobs, couldn't make ends meet. I find out that he has a cocaine addiction. Rent comes, no hay dinero. Things are missing. I have to move back into my mom's house. I'm ping ponging, like with 2 babies, trying to figure out life. I end up graduating from high school um at my mom's house. So I was like ping ponging, I didn't know what to do with my life. Este no me está ayudando. I just pero I was still in love with him. Or the illusion of what a family could feel. Once I graduated high school, I wanted my kids to feel what it feels like to have 2 parents in a household. Even though the cheating, even though the drug addiction, I still wanted my kids to have their father and their mother together and teach them, like, no matter what, mommy and papi fought together to make it happen for you guys, to make a family. Again, the cheating, again, the drugs, again, pero él lo negaba. But I knew it because, growing up in an environment where there was drugs all the time, I already knew. Los ojos, cómo se comportaba, siempre se estaba jodiendo con la nariz. I would always see the signs, but in my mind, I'm like, no. If he says no, is no. Okay, I won't keep fighting it, for the sake of the kids.
Yeah.
Once I had enough, I seen, his laptop and his phone, him messaging mujeres. He was cheating on me with coworkers. He ended up, like admitting to it that he was cheating, and I'm like, no, I'm like done, like, tanta mierda que tú me has hecho pasar por tantos años, and I can't do it. So I moved back with my mom y estaba buscando un apartamento. Cuando estaba buscando un apartamento, I ended up finding one, and I moved out. I was like, I'm done. You can co-parent with me. Tus hijos van a ser tus hijos. I'm gonna still be their mom. We'll just co-parent. When I left his house, I didn't know that I was pregnant.
Oh.
For the third time.
Oh.
For the third time. And when I went to go tell him, the reason why I found out that I was pregnant the third time was because I was in a car accident, and in the hospital, they're like, oh, you have whiplash and congratulations, you're pregnant. I'm devastated because I'm trying to get away from this man. Like all the lying, cheating, hurt. I'm like, something has to give. So I end up finding out that I'm pregnant with my third child. ¿Qué pasa? I go to him and I'm like, hey, um, you've literally been the only man that I've been with, like, I'm pregnant again. He's like, oh, that's not my child. That's not my son. Figure out whose, baby is that. And I'm like, I just literally left your house. We were living together. Like, what do you mean find the other, father of the child? ¿Qué pasa? I leave that house. I tell him I'm pregnant. He didn't want nothing to do with it. That's where everything started. So he has the pattern of when I'm pregnant, he don't want to be with me. He don't want to deal with the pregnancy. He don't want to go to the appointments. Nada de eso. He just don't want any parts. Now, when I had my son, when I finally had him, and he seen that he looked exactly like him, he's like, okay, I want to be back with you. I want to, make things work. So it was a pattern of que cuando ya tenía los baby, él quería estar conmigo. Pero cuando estaba embarazada, ahí andaba puteando.
Yeah.
With other girls and having fun, vacilando, going clubbing, buying girls drinks. So when I had my son, he's like, no, come on, let's make this work. He's like, I'm so sorry. It didn't work out like that. Family telling me all the stuff that he was doing. I'm doing his laundry. I find a cocaine bag. That was my confirmation. He used to always deny it, and I'm like, like something told me, and there was a hint, but that was just a confirmation of he has a problem. He has a real big problem. Peleando, his family's on my back because we moved in with his family. Peleando, the cheating, him lying to me, llegaba borracho, and it got to a point where I'm like, I can't do this no more. It was times where, we would get into a fist fight. Le pegaba a mi hijo, or, like, it was more of él quería enseñarle a mi hijo cómo ser hombre.
So he would hit you?
Le quería enseñar cómo ser hombre y le quería pegar como un hombre. Y yo le decía, no conmigo. Si tú quieres darle a alguien, pégame a mí.
Oh, so you volunteered.
And we used to fist fight. And, con el chiquito, it got to a point where I'm like, this is a pattern. And I got to the point where yo me quería matar. Yo no quería vivir. Y no era por mis hijos. Era por el tratamiento, like, man, I love this man and he's hurting me. I gave you life. I gave you 3 lives. And you treated me like garbage. Peleando con la familia. Peleando con él. So I'm like, okay, well, the last one, he tried to hit my son like a man. So I hit his ass back. I'm like, no, you're not gonna hit my son like that. ¿Qué pasó? He body slammed me on top of my baby, el chiquito. He body slammed me on top of him. I had enough. I had enough. I grabbed my stuff. I had already bags packed in my trunk. I grabbed my kids. My kids didn't even have shoes that day. I packed up their stuff and I'm like, no, ya basta. He was an amazing father. He never gave me an ick of, being a terrible father. He was a loving father. Pero when he was on drugs, and he would deny it, when he was on drugs, he was more of the aggressive. Era bien agresivo. He never gave me that inch of like that he was a bad father. He just had problems, just like, and like any other parent. I found out about, like he was trying to hit my son and he body slammed me and I grabbed my stuff. I went to the police station, made a police report. And I told him I didn't want to be with him. But I told him why I didn't want to be with him. It was messing up with my mental. All these years, like I felt like, I gave up my life, my hopes, my dreams to make a family, and he was just playing in my face the whole time. So when that happened, um, I went I told him I wanted a divorce. I didn't want to be with him anymore. And when that happened, he was just like, he just didn't care. He partying more, drinking more, but I didn't take that into consideration of it was because of the kids. It was because of me and him.
Mm-hmm.
When I decided that I wanted to get the divorce, I told my mom, I'm like, mira, mommy, like, you're looking for a place to move into. I'm looking for a place to move into. Um, I need out for the sake of the kids so I can be okay. Like, how can I be okay and, be there for my kids if I'm not okay? So I ended up moving out and I told my mom, like, mommy, I need to get this divorce. Why don't we move in together so that way, I can get that type of closure where I can pay for this divorce, get away from him, and still be able to make it as a single mom. I didn't have a lot of means. I was working at the time, but it was gonna be hard, because he had his family helping support my kids, and now I wasn't gonna have that anymore. So qué pasa? We move into an apartment, and within 2 weeks, she dies.
Who?
My mom.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So when my mom, she passes away. She passes away in my apartment, and I end up finding her. My kids are in the other room, and they don't know that their grandma had passed away. And I'm calling him like, "Hey, my mom is dead in the other room. Can you help me pick them up? Help me do something." The whole time he's like, "Oh, that's none of my problem." I'm like, "Look, help me. My kids can't see this. My mom ended up passing away in my daughter's arms, and she didn't know about it." And I'm just screaming on the phone like, "Come get them. Like, you're their father. Regardless if we're together or not, like, we gotta co-parent. Tú eres el padre, yo soy la madre." It was a big fight. And I'm like, I already know how this is gonna turn out. He's just mad because I don't want to be with him. He's gonna make my life hell. Come the funeral, fighting with me. I'm like, "Look, I'm not in a mental space for you to be fighting with me, like, just help me with the babies until I get my mental right." Come the funeral, igual. Igual, fighting with me. His mom is there, mind you. I don't have a good relationship with his mom. I literally had to fight her because, she was overstepping her boundaries when it came to how I was parenting. She would say, like, that she wished that I was dead so that way she can have my kids. That was the type of relationship that I had to deal with his side of the family.
They don't sound like good people. They don't sound like good people. Yeah, I know, I know. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
So when that happened about, like when I was telling him about, my mom, and he was at the funeral, and, when it came to him helping me with the kids, I was not in the right state of mind. How do you cope with, you're going through a divorce, you found your mom dead, your kids are literally experiencing grief, and you don't know how to, like, I couldn't function as a mom, as a daughter, as a person. I just couldn't function. Like, and I'm telling him, como madre, I'm like, I can't be there for my kids if I can't be there for myself. I
Mm-hmm.
lost the only person that every time shit hit the fan, I would run to her. Whenever I would get in a fist fight with him, whenever, you know, my kids were hungry and he didn't have the money to feed them, I didn't have the money to feed them, I would always run to her. So that safe place, that safe haven, I didn't have her anymore. And that was the most devastating thing, because I'm like, Diablo, ¿qué voy a hacer?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to face the biggest battle in my life, and that's him. Put my love, my dreams of having a family on hold, and try to get away from this guy. Cause all I know is él me va a matar a mí y yo lo voy a matar a él. That's how we got to that point. It got to a point where I just couldn't. And then to know that I don't have that person that would always pick me up when I fell on my face,
That sucks.
that it was devastating.
Mm-hmm.
I told him, I was like, look, I lost my mom. I'm not in a mental space. Can you keep them for a couple weeks while I do therapy, or, like, try to get myself together? Lost my job. I couldn't function. I lost my job. I was just not in a good space. I had bills piling up. Rent was due. I was on the verge of being homeless. With that being said, ellos tienen su padre. Ellos tienen su padre.
Mm-hmm.
Me and him might have not had a good relationship, or we would have ended up in bad terms, but he was still their father. He would claim that he was father of the year, mi nene, mi nene, mi nene. Okay, well, this is your time to step up. Like, I can't do it right now. And you, as a father, if I can't do it, then you're going to have to do it. So at the time, he was living with his parents. So his parents had my kids had their own room at their parents' house, at his parents' house, well, their grandparents. And I'm like, but, let me sit down and talk to the grandparents, and let's get to, you know, a common ground where, we can all co-parent and make sure that what's beneficial to the kids. What do I sat down the grandparents, and I talked to them, and I told them, hey, you know, I'm going through a situation where I'm basically gonna be homeless. And, you know, my kids have a stable place here. Help me with the kids until I get on my feet. It's going to take a couple weeks, or, at least a month or two, to get back on my feet. I need this help. Like you guys were saying, that you guys want to be involved, and, to let you guys be with the kids. Okay, well, this is the time that I need, what's best for my kids. And right now, mentally, I wasn't okay. I don't have anything stable at the moment. And as a mom, you want, to have your kids be stable and have a perfect environment for them, so they can thrive, when they're growing up. Um, So I thought that that was gonna be the best plan for them, being that their their own house.
The grandparents.
Nobody can uproot them unless if they don't do what they have to do. Yeah, I understand, but I thought, I'm like, okay, well, they have their own house. My kids have their own room. Let them stay there until I get on my feet. ¿Qué pasa? Um, I had an agreement with him where I found a job. I had an agreement with him, and I was telling him, like, on the weekends when I'm off, like, I'll go visit them. I didn't want to deal with that family no more. So it was more of I was gonna see them on the weekends until I got my stuff together. Um, but it became where he would ask me for sex in order for me to see them. And
I can't.
I was just hurting myself, like I knew that I didn't want to deal with him. I know that I didn't want to, have to deal with that anymore. But at the same time, it was like I had to do what I had to do so I can be able to see my kids. He wouldn't let me see them. It was que tus hijos no te quieren ver. Um, tú no haces nada por tus hijos. So that mother guilt, like I was just doing what I had to do in order for me to see them. And he was holding my kids, my kids over my head. And I'm
Hostage.
like, but I just want to see my babies, like no matter what, I'm still their mom and I'm still not going to give up on them. ¿Qué pasa? We're fighting. We're fighting. Um, it got to a point where he was threatening to take my kids away. I ended up dating somebody, and when I was dating that person, uh, he was kind of jealous. He was kind of mad, and I'm like, pero you had your family, and you didn't want that family. Um, like it got to a point where he was forcing me to have sex, and because I didn't want to do that anymore, I ended up finding a guy that I was dating, and it probably if he knew that I was dating that guy, he wouldn't ask me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Ya le tenía asco. It got to a point where I paid for the divorce. He's like, if you want a divorce, you pay for it. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll pay for it. And I did. I paid for it, but it still didn't stop him. Um, it got to the point where I had to be honest with the guy that I was dating, and I'm like, look, he's making me do things that I don't want to do, and I'm complying because as a mother, I'm gonna do what I have to do in order for me to see my kids. That turned into a domestic. I ended up getting away from the dude. I pressed charges and everything and got away from that. He's over here laughing in my face like, oh, this is what you get.
This is the new boyfriend.
Yeah, that was my new boyfriend at the
He
time.
he beat you up
Yeah. He beat me up to the point where
because
my
of
face was unrecognizable
because of the story
because
that
of
you was
when
told
he
him.
found
Yeah,
out that I was
yeah.
sleeping still with my ex-husband
Damn.
just to be able to see my kids.
Yeah.
I got away from that, and he was still like holding it over my head because I didn't want to sleep with him. So I'm getting my ass beat. I lost my mom. He's holding the kids over my head and forcing me to do shit that I didn't want to do. I ended up trying to committing suicide because I tried to commit suicide. He went to the court and he got temporary custody of my kids.
Roll back for a second. Roll back. Now, when you attempted suicide, how did you do it? Like what?
I grabbed the knife and I tried to cut my veins in two different parts of my arm.
You really went through with it.
Um, I I had bled out for a whole day. Like I was hallucinating. I wasn't in my right mind. I'm bleeding out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all I remember is texting him, telling him to tell my babies that I love them. And nobody understood why I said that. It, he texted my sister, and my sister knew where I was at. And she called the police, she called the ambulance, she called everybody came knocking in my door. I ended up going to the hospital, and my family's like, you know, they found out why I tried to kill myself. Because he was forcing me to have sex with him just to see my kids. He wasn't allowing me to see my kids. It was just really abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, she's lying, she's lying. And they're asking him, like, don't, do you not care? Like, do you not care about, she just tried to kill herself because you're making her do shit? Um, so at that point, he act like he was caring, about the situation, and he's like, "I'll tell her to stop. I won't do that no more." And with that being said, he went to the court and used that I tried to commit suicide, that I wasn't in my right state of mind, and that I abandoned my kids. So they granted him temporary custody.
Mm.
But being that I didn't tell him where I was living, I was never served. Um, Fast forwarding to, I got out of the hospital. I got straight to work. I went to work, found a job, went to work, tried to get my shit together, my living situation together. I wasn't living with the guy that was beating me up anymore. Um, but I was still trying to see my kids.
Yeah.
He wasn't letting me see my kids. Um, it ended up being like probably a couple months after that. He started calling me like DCFS is getting involved because the kids are acting up in school. And I'm like trying to figure out like what's going on. Like, why is DCFS trying to get involved? My son was hitting the teachers, he was making them bleed. My daughter was always saying that she didn't want to go to school. So at this point, they're calling him and he's not answering. Or they'll tell him to come pick up the kids and he wouldn't pick them up. So they're calling me like, hey, I don't know what's going on between both of you guys. You guys need to like get involved. You need to get involved. Um, DCFS was contacted and he's like, hey, I don't know what's going on with these kids. These kids are acting up. Um, DCFS is getting involved. I think it's time for you to take them. I'm thinking like, okay, well, probably they're acting up because they want to be with their mom. That's a big transition from not being with their mom and having their father and his side of the family telling them, "Mami no te quiere, mami te abandonó." So that was a big transition from seeing me every day to not seeing me at all. DCFS got involved. He ended up giving me the kids. I'm like, okay, well, shit's getting weird. So I tried to transfer them out of school. They're like, no, you can't transfer them out of school. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, you don't have any rights to them. And I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, you lost custody of them and you don't have any rights to them. You can't transfer them out. You have to ask their father for permission. And I'm like, well, I didn't get served. I didn't know anything of this. He ends up going to the school and telling them, yeah, they're gonna transfer, they're gonna go stay with their mom now. And mind you, I still didn't know about this, the temporary custody. I was never served.
Yeah.
Being that because I didn't give him my address and he was mad that I didn't want to give him my address because he was toxic, él fue a la corte y le dijo que yo los abandoné, que él no sabe dónde estoy. Because I didn't have those rights, I went to the library. I typed up a paper, stating that he needs to give me back the medical rights, the school rights, any type of rights that I need to make an executive decision for my children when it's needed, um, for him to oblige, like to give me the okay. Went to the library, typed up that paper, and we were going to get it notarized where he would have to sign it and I would have to sign it. And that would give me at least a leeway for me to have some type of rights back without him fighting, like saying that I don't have any rights. It's on paper. Um, that day I typed that paper down. I called him. I was like, hey, I got to get these kids into school ASAP. You know, um, they're missing out on learning. They're missing out on school. We need to get the ball rolling. I showed him the paper to sign. We're at the currency exchange at that point, and he doesn't know anything of what I typed down. I'm reading it to him, making sure that he understands what I typed. Como un pendejo, no sabía nada. He just signed the paper. I'm like, okay, it goes
Okay.
in my favor, Now it's time to shine. After everything that he made me go through, not being able to see my kids, making me do things that I didn't want to do, making sure that the kids knew that yo los abandoné, que yo no los quería. This is my time to shine. Now I got my kids, and now I'm gonna put up a fight. I had to play my cards right. ¿Qué pasa? When I went to transfer them in, I had that paper. It was a green light. Um, Now we had an agreement of he would see them on the weekends and I would keep them during the weekdays. Now it comes the weekend. Mi hija, she's no, I don't want to go, mom. I don't want to go. Tears in her eyes, and I would tell him like, hey, tu hija, ella no quiere ir a tu casa. And he'll be like, "Pues ella no se manda. Ella no se manda. She can't tell anybody what to do. If she has to come to my house." And I'm like, "Well, she kind of has an option. With me, she has an option. If she doesn't want to go, I'm not gonna force her." Pero con él era que ella no se manda, que ella no se manda. Remember, I had those rights, and mind you, I had that paper, the notarized paper, pero in the police's eyes, he has this paper with the judge, the stamp of the judge. Like, they're gonna listen to him. ¿Qué pasa? Every time he would want to pick up the kids and the kids didn't want to go, he'll send a sheriff to my house. And I'm like, well, mommy, papi, I'm sorry, guys, but I can't really do anything. He's playing the police card. Always bringing sheriffs to my house, and I, there's no way that I can fight your dad. There's no way. He says that he wants you guys to go spend time with him. Then, by all means, like, I can't fight him on that. Um, my daughter was really like, she started changing. Um, she wanted to dress up like loose shirt, loose pants. Everybody was giving her shit about que ella se quería poner marimacha, like dress up like a tomboy, like a stud.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, if she's trying to learn who she is, déjala. Leave her alone. Let her be. She's trying to learn who she is and try to express herself. So in my instinct, it was que ella estaba cambiando like a normal teenager. She's a preteen.
Going through her
And I'm
phases.
like, she's kind of acting distant. So in her mind, everything that her dad was telling her and her grandma was telling her, she was believing that I abandoned them, that I didn't love them. So she pushed me away, and it took me like a long time for me to gain that trust back with her. Pero que ella no quería ir con su padre, que ella no quería ir. Um, so it's Lani, Zaya, and Titi. Those are their names. Lani no quería ir. Zaya no quería ir. Pero Titi sí, el chiquito. And I'm like, pues dos quieren ir, no quieren ir y el uno sí quiere ir. He's like, no, mándalo a los tres, que ellos no se mandan, que ellos no se mandan. Um, and it got to a point where, okay, they were going on the weekends, they were going to their dad's house, but in reality, they were going to their grandparents' house. That's where he lived. Eventually they started, going on the weekends, and it got to a point where él se ponía celoso. My daughter was learning how to be on TikTok, and you know, it was kind of a parent thing where she was trying to be kind of provocative, and I didn't know the reason why, but I'll be like, Lonnie, you know how many pedophiles are on TikTok, or like on the internet in general.
Yeah.
I'm like, you need to watch what you post, what kind of dances you do. The ass shaking can't you can't do that. I'm giving her these guidelines on what I expect from her as my child. Because I have rules. Um, so she posted a video, and he's like, "Oh, que ella quiere actuar como una puta." He's like, she wants to act like a prostitute online. So he's like very adamant about her, posting on TikTok. So I'm like, okay, well, as parents, we're gonna talk to each other. And I'm like, pero tú no le vas a llamar una puta a mi hija. That was like a kind of like a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, when he was with them, ellos me salían con piojo when I would see them on the weekend. I'm constantly cleaning out their piojos out of their head. Um, no tenían ropa, no tenían zapato, So that time that I would take out on the weekends to be with them, it was to clean their hair out, make sure that they had new clothes, make sure that they had new shoes. But when I got them fully, también me salían con puto piojo. And I'm like, well, where's the root cause of the piojo? Um, he didn't know. With the whole TikTok, we were talking about, like certain things that she was posting. He had an issue with that. When it came to, um, it was a lot of things that were going on back to back with the whole clothing. So now she's getting boy crazy.
Mm-hmm.
When she got boy crazy, le estaban gustando los nenes. But I was trying to aconsejarla, like, look, mommy, like, there's certain things that you can do and can't do. Take me for an example. Like I was lying to my mom, and that lie turned into me being a teen mom. And I don't want you to go through that. It was really hard. I make it look easy, but it's really hard. So there's this little boy that was like taking an interest in her, and she was like, "Oh, I like him, but I can't be with him. Like it can't happen." So he had a tablet that was connected to her phone. So he was looking at the messages that they were sending each other because the tablet was at his house and the phone was at my house. So he's like calling me like, "Answer the phone, beat her ass." And I'm like, I'm not going to beat her ass. I'm going to talk to my child because that's what you do. You talk with your words. You don't talk with your hands, Like, why would I beat her ass over a little boy? Ella es inocente. Ella no sabe nada about boys, Like, she's just learning what it is to have a crush on a boy and like a boy. It's like, beat her ass. Like, he's literally like trying to instruct me on to beat her ass. And I'm like, no, that I'm not going to do that. And I'm telling my daughter, like, you see, Lonnie, like, there's certain conversations that I'm having with you, and you keep, talking to these boys. Um, and look at your dad's on the phone telling me to whoop your ass, and I don't want to whoop your ass. I'm trying to have a conversation with you about these boys. She starts sobbing, and I'm like, what's going on? Why are you crying? I didn't even hit you. I'm trying to talk to you. She's like, no, it's not that. She's like, can we talk in the bathroom? And I'm like, the bathroom made my heart drop because I've always had conversations with my kids about if you need to talk about anything, if you feel uncomfortable about anything and there's people around, or alguien te toca o lo que sea, anything inappropriate. If you want to take me to the bathroom or you want to pull me to the side or you want to take me anywhere, by all means, feel free to tell me, hey, mom, that's our code word. Let's go to the bathroom.
Gotcha.
So when she tells me that let's go to the bathroom, my heart drops. Hang up the phone with him. I didn't give a fuck what he was saying about, he was acting fucking weird. And I'm like, pero eso cosa de nene, puppy love, whatever the fuck it is. Like, esa cosa de nene. It had nothing to do with why I would beat my child. She's like, we go to the bathroom. And she's like, Mom, remember all those times that you told me that if something or somebody did something very inappropriate to take you to the bathroom? And I'm like, yeah, I remember. Like I always tell you guys, if something happens, you need to let me know and not be scared. She said, well, my dad has been doing inappropriate things to me.
Ay, fuck.
And my heart broke. And I was like, no, wait here. I had my husband at the time and my sister in la casa.
So,
Because she
so
was
you're
going through a
married.
domestic.
You're married now at this
I'm
point.
married again. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
married again.
And
He was
this is
with
not
me
a
through the whole battle of trying to get them back.
and this
You
is not
know,
a domestic thing. Like this wasn't a bad relationship, no domestic violence, nothing. He ain't hit you.
no,
This
no,
guy.
no, no,
Okay, okay,
no.
good. He's been
Ese es
supportive.
un corazón de oro.
So keep going.
When he met me, my husband at right now, my current husband, he met me when I was getting beat up by the dude. So when I was getting beat up by the dude, he helped me pack up my car and get away from the dude. Él agarró toda mi cosa. He said, "No, you deserve better, and this is not a life that you need to live." Um, and he helped me pack up my stuff. Bien caballero. He wasn't perverted. He wasn't looking for anything other than me getting out of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Never thought of like, okay, we're gonna date. We're messing around or anything like that. He was just, okay, we're gonna get you out of this situation, and you need to focus on your kids. Um, Fast forwarding, he was helping me get my kids financially. He was helping me get their beds, make sure that they had their school supplies, their shoes, a roof over their head. Because, I'm like, fuck, like, they had a house over there with their grandparents. I feel like the least that I should do is make sure that they have their house. When they come over here, mommy's going to make sure that you guys got your own room, make sure that you guys got your own space. I owe that to you guys. So, I end up dating him for a while. My kids didn't meet him till like after a year. So, it was we did the proper steps in order for me to be secure that okay, this is the man that I'm going to be with and I'm going to introduce my kids to.
Mm-hmm.
He helped me fight. When I say he helped me fight, get my kids back and get my mental back to be able to be strong enough to help me fight my kids, he made sure of every single thing was taken care of. So when that moment that she was in the bathroom and she told me, Mommy, Papi has been doing inappropriate stuff to me, I stopped her in her tracks. You, I mean, for you to be a mom and you hear
Mm-hmm.
Papi's doing something to you, I stopped. I told her to stop in her tracks. I went to go get my sister that was in the sala and my husband that was in the sala. My sister has always been through everything with me. She's like chicle. Like wherever I go, she goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, Melina, and I told, my husband's Mikey. I was like, Melina and Mikey, can you please come with me to the bathroom? You will not believe, or I didn't even have words. I was like, can you just come to the bathroom? And they're like, what? What's going on? And I'm like, Jaylani, go ahead and say what you gotta say. She started saying how when she was 7 years old, mind you, this is around the time that my mom had passed away and I gave the kids to him.
Mm-hmm.
Que cuando she was 7 years old, he started touching on her. Que le tocaba los senos, que le tocaba el trasero, her private parts, que la estaba haciendo watch porno, that he would put the headphones on her so she wouldn't, so nobody else would hear. When she was sleeping in her own room, he would pick her up and take her to his room. She was describing his penis. She was describing how the cum looked. In four different occasions, he tried to penetrate her, but she was pushing him off. It was a lot of details to the point where I'm like, there's no way a child is gonna make this shit up.
No.
There's no way. There's no fucking way.
No fucking way. That's
disgusting. To the detail.
Yeah.
To the T.
No way.
One day she had came from her dad's house, and mind you, this is before I even had the papers for the rights. Before I got the papers for the rights for him to sign off the rights, ella vino con un chupetón. Con un chupetón en la casa. And I'm freaking the fuck out. I'm like, Lani, ¿qué te pasó en el cuello? I burned myself with a flat iron. I'm like, that's a bullshit ass lie. Don't fucking come to me and tell me that it's a flat iron burn. I'm like, I've burned myself for years with a flat iron, and not once has it looked like that. Mm-hmm. I call him. What's going on over there? Do you want me to call DCFS and the police? Like, what the fuck is going on in that house? I don't know. I'm like, she came home with a hickey. Well, I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, but she just came from your house. I was trying to play my cards right. And I couldn't sit there and go to the police and call DCFS because I didn't have enough evidence. It was my word against his. Y como la tenía ella diciendo que era un flat iron, la culpa, I'm going to look like the bad one. Because he already coerced her to saying that it was a flat iron. So when she's opening up and telling me that he's doing all these things to her, I'm like, pero was he drunk? Was he on drugs? Like, he smelled like liquor. And I'm like, pero, I'm an occasional drinker. I'm not going to lie. That wouldn't, in my mind, think like, okay, well, I'm going to get drunk and I'm going to touch on my child. There's no amount of liquor or no amount of drug or no amount of any type of thing that would possess me in my mind to think that, hey, I'm going to come home and touch my child.
Yeah, you're right.
She was saying that, the next day he would say that he's sorry, que no lo iba a hacer otra vez, that he was confusing her with the woman. But mind you, every time that he would look at her, he would always tell me that that she reminds him of me. So with that being said, he would always tell her the next day que no lo iba a hacer, that he was sorry, that to please not tell anybody. And he would always amenazarla que si ella decía algo, que ella no me iba a ver nunca más. So imagine a child that wants to be with her mother and is going through all this trauma, can't tell her mother because she's scared to lose her mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
As soon as she told me that, and I brought my husband and I brought my sister in the same room to listen to the shit that she was saying, that he was making her do. One, because I didn't want them to make it seem like I was the one that was forcing her to say that. Number two, I needed witnesses.
Yeah.
I
Gotcha.
had to play my cards right.
Yeah, you did.
Go to the police station. I made the report. So when I made the report, the next day I had to go to the school and I had to tell them, hey, um, you see this man, don't let him come in. Do not let him take my kids out of this, out of class. Do not let him leave with my kids off school property. Do not make that mistake. Um, so I go to the, when I go to the school, the counselor's like, well, you have to, make sure that you tell your boys, give them a reason as to why they can't see their father. You just can't tell them, hey, you can't see your father and not give them a reason. That's going to make them, one, act out in school, and they're not in the loop. You have to make sure that you keep them in the loop. So lo siento a ello, to the boys, I have a stepdaughter. My husband has a daughter from a previous relationship, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm helping him raise her too.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had to sit down and tell the boys, hey, like, you can't see your father, I had to legit give them a reason why, but I wasn't going to go into full detail. So I sat the boys down, Zaya and Titi, and my stepdaughter, because she had to know as well that it's not okay if you don't, like, it's not okay. If you're being touched in an inappropriate way, you need to let somebody know. You need to speak up. So I sat down my boys and I told them, like, you can't see your dad until further notice, and it has to do with something with Lonnie, and it was very inappropriate. I didn't go into detail. That's all I just said.
They already knew.
El chiquito, he raises his hand and he's like, um, Mom, and I'm like, yeah, what's up? Usually, he's the type, he's goofy. He's not serious when it comes to anything. So I'm like thinking to myself, okay, Titi's gonna make a joke right now, the wrong
Mm-hmm.
time ever. So he raises his hand and I'm like, Titi, what's up? He's like, the Saturday that I was with my dad, and then starts going into detail again about what happened with his dad.
He took
He said
advantage
that
of
his
him too.
dad came into the house. Um, I don't know from where, but he came inside the house, went inside the closet, grabbed some stuff from the closet, took a shower downstairs, came back upstairs, and Titi was waiting for him in bed. He was waiting for his dad to come home so he can, like, be with his dad. When his dad seen that he was on the bed, he started touching his private parts, touched his butt, and Titi was pretending like he was asleep at the time when he was waiting for his dad on the bed because he knew his dad had just got home.
Yeah.
He was pretending to go to sleep, and then he realizes that his dad is doing this, and he asks his dad, why are you touching me in my private parts? He told me he doesn't remember what his dad said, but he knew that his dad was lying to him.
Mm-hmm.
So when he tells me that, I go to the police again. There was no way of me. One is telling me that he's touching on her and trying to, physically rape her. And then the other child is telling me the same thing. And mind you, my daughter was not in the same room. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know the details.
Mm-hmm.
Had to go to the police station, make another police report. They end up doing a investigation. They did a forensic interview with them. So that means somebody that's certified to talk to children, without asking them questions, is interrogating them in a room.
Yeah.
So all of my 3 kids are going through this forensic interview. I'm getting interviewed. My sister's getting interviewed. My husband's being interviewed. You know, I'm telling them all the information that I know that I can help, possibly, like, help me in the situation where we can locate him. There were witnesses, because my younger son, when it happened to him, he told his older brother, which is Zaya, and his cousins about what happened. So we had to locate the cousins. They pretend like they didn't know where, like that they didn't say it. I gave them their address. They literally told the police that they don't know who that person is, and it was them. They live in that same address that I gave the police, denied it completely, saying that they didn't live there. So it took for them to, like, a couple, like, probably 3 weeks to do the investigation. When they were done with the investigation, they had found evidence and probable cause to arrest him. But during that time, they had told me not to contact him, don't call him, don't text him. And he's blowing up my phone like, mira, coño, porque no, porque, you're not answering me. I'm trying to hear about the kids. He's blowing up my phone and I'm not answering him.
Scumbag.
And in my mind, I'm like, he's blowing up my phone because he knows that he got caught. They already spoke up. They already said everything that happened. He was just blowing up my phone, not to worry about the kids and know what's going on with the kids. It was more to know if he got caught.
Or to try to make you take him back.
So when I had finished all that and I was talking to the detectives and stuff, they end up catching him by surprise. They end up picking him up at the house, and they set bail. They posted bail for him after I begged them. When they were doing the interview, I was like, look, he's the type that if he's in trouble, he's going to run from the trouble. That's the type I was literally with this man for 12 years. I would know the ins and outs of how he reacts when trouble comes his way. I'm like, if he posts bail, he's going to end up running to Miami. ¿Qué pasa? They arrest him. They give him a bond. I think it was 100,000 per case, so it's like 10%.
Yeah.
Family ends up bailing him out. So when his family bailed him out, he showed up to the first court date with the lawyer. Being that it was like winter break. So during winter break, I guess the lawyer had set out his vacation time. So that the court date intervened with his vacation time. So he said that he wanted another court date. End up being that the lawyer ends up passing away on vacation.
What?
Of a heart attack.
What a fucking story.
So when the lawyer ends up passing away, this is from Acosta Law, which is right by Maywood Courthouse. This is like a law firm that's been there for years. Okay. So it was the owner of that law firm that was taking his case, ends up getting a heart attack while on vacation. So they had postponed the court date. When the court date comes back, that's when we find out that the lawyer that he had ended up passing away. Facebook posts, I start seeing all these Facebook posts about this judge, lawyer Acosta everywhere, just posted like, my condolences. It's his fucking lawyer.
That's
what happened. They postponed the court date to another court date. And it's a lawyer within the same firm. I'm like, he ended up getting another lawyer. So they postponed it so he can get up to date with the discovery of everything that was going on. I'm like, okay, well, he's gonna until proven guilty, like, at the end, I know that my kids are not gonna make up those details. But at the same time, it's like, he's denying it. Okay, well, prove your case. Prove it. Prove that you're innocent. ¿Qué pasa? The next court date comes, doesn't show up. The second court date comes, doesn't show up. Slowly but surely, I'm like, I told you guys this. Once he posts his bail and shit hits the fucking fan, he's gonna run. And the only place that his family tends to run to is Florida.
Mm.
Cuando tienen problemas con la policía or with the law, that's where they go to. They go to Florida.
Mm.
¿Qué pasa? I tell them this. They're like, oh, well, since he missed his court dates, all we can do is give him a national fugitive warrant and see if he comes back to Illinois, or if you have an exact address in Florida, we can send out paperwork to Florida and see if we can extradite him over here. The reason why they would say that they would extradite him from Florida over here was because the abuse started when he took them on a trip to Florida when she was 7 years old.
Oh, okay.
So they do have a case, like say if I wanted to go to Florida and open the case, then it would help me to get a case started over there and one over here.
Mm-hmm.
Pero la cosa es que now, since I have posted that TikTok video everywhere, me están diciendo that some people are telling me that he's in Honduras. Some people are telling me he's in Miami. So I really don't know, but like it's kind of hard, just sitting there and waiting, while you're piecing your kids together and you're piecing basically their whole lives, and they're grieving for people that are not even dead, like su tío, su tía, the grandparents, their father. Like, I'm trying to piece them all together, and to know that I gotta sit there and wait and twiddle my fingers until he either comes back and fucks up, or until like they figure out what they're gonna do with him. Pero to wait 20, 30 freaking years for my daughter to get justice, I feel like that wasn't fair for them. I feel like they're another statistic in the system where, like they don't have a say in, okay, well, let's go pick this guy up and have him pay for the stuff, the damages that he did to his children.
Yeah, I got you.
So that's why I took the initiative to sit there and say, okay, fuck how I feel, fuck how I look. I don't care if because people are gonna judge and people are gonna think like, okay, well, where was she, in all of this? I didn't know. My kids, they try to hide it from me so good, and it was to not hurt me. You know what it is to read your daughter's trauma narrative and it say that she didn't want to break my heart?
Kids do that.
That shit broke my heart.
Yeah. It's funny.
They didn't speak up because they didn't want to break my heart. That shit broke my heart, because if I knew for one instant that he was doing that to them, I would have fought with everything in me to make sure that he would never even get near them. But to know years after, it started when she was 7, and she didn't tell me till she was 11.
Wow. That's a tough pill to swallow, man.
And as a mother, I'm like, damn, he didn't give me that ick of being un sucio, un pervertido, un pedophile, un molester. He never gave me that ick. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we're co-parenting. Yeah, it might be a bitter divorce, and you're getting mad because I don't want to be with you. And when I divorced him, he wasn't able to get his papers, so he was off the bat pissed off about that. Mm-hmm. He couldn't claim citizenship because I had already got divorced by him. Mm-hmm. Mind you, I was his sponsor. So he was already pissed off about that. I'm thinking like, okay, well, he's kind of mad because I don't want to be with him, but it had nothing to do with the kids. Not realizing like, damn, I let my kids stay with this monster and he was going to end up hurting them.
And he was disguised the whole time.
The whole time I told him, like, I don't want to traumatize my kids with any trauma, because I've been through trauma since I was young. I was trying to do the right thing as a mother and say, hey, you got something stable. I'm not going to traumatize them with my shit. You know, let me figure it out and make sure that they're okay, you know? And sometimes as a mother, I feel guilt of like, I put myself first. And when I put myself first, my kids end up paying for it. But at
You
the same
can't.
time, it's like, I had to get out.
But you, hello.
Being able to be a mother and being able to have my mental and get my mental right so that way I can be there for them.
That's the
The way that I
way.
am now,
That's the way.
I'm 10 toes behind my kids.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody coming in between my kids.
Yeah.
But it took
And
so many years of me being out of light, of the verbal abuse, the emotional abuse, the mental abuse,
mhm.
it took so much. It came to a point where I felt like I wanted to give up so bad. But the only way that I kept pushing in this life was my kids, my kids, my kids. I need my kids. My kids need me. But to come to find out all this was in the hands of their dad, the one that would always tell me that I'm a bad mother because I left, because I didn't want to come back. For him to do that, and especially it being your own children, your own blood, your own seed, that shit hurts so freaking bad.
Yeah.
That hurt me. That destroyed me. I took them to therapy. I've done therapy, and just to know that the system, the way it's worked, it to sit down and wait until my daughter gets justice, I wasn't gonna let that happen. Even though it was embarrassing and I had to put my story out online and see the comments of, how terrible of a mother I was, and,
There's
see that, oh,
but
well, you knew him from the jump.
there's nothing embarrassing about that. You were blinded. You didn't see it. There was no way to tell that this guy was a scumbag, and you have to let it out so people can find the scumbag because he's on the run. So there's nothing embarrassing about this. And you should never feel embarrassed about this. You're trying to protect your child the best way you can. And that's all a mother can do right now.
I just want to be a voice to people, or
You are.
to women, to not feel guilty if it's anything related to domestic, to 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 think of themselves and get out before it gets too ugly, or for children to, even if it's the person's closest to you,
Speak up.
for you to speak up and not be scared about it.
Yes, I agree.
To
And
not be scared. Whether it's your mother, whether it's your father, whether it's your uncle, your brother, your sister, whoever it is.
yeah, yeah.
Abuse is abuse.
And it's not good.
And the reason why I brought it to the social media platform is to help somebody else, even if it's somebody within his reach or anybody that's scared to speak up. There's a
And
lot of children, even my daughter's friends,
mhm.
they all have their own abuse story.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
so sad because some of
it
the
is.
moms don't believe their kids. Some of the moms don't speak up. Some of the moms brush it under the rug. Some of the moms don't call the police. They don't want a spectacle in the family. They don't want to be ridiculed. They don't want to be blamed. I don't care about any of that. A child is a child, and children are off limits.
Yeah.
And that's why as much as like it hurts me and to relive everything that I've had to deal with this far, I decided that I wanted to come on the podcast because at the end of the day, like, I want to help children that are not able to have that backbone and speak up. And
and
that's what Jaylani would want. And
and
Jaylani is all for it, even though she was scared at the moment. Now that she's gone through therapy and that she has sat down with me, and I've made her secure to the point where she wants to tell her story, and she's okay with everybody knowing the ugly truth, the beautiful parts of her. The She's okay with showing what's vulnerable, and trying to help somebody that's in need.
and and the another thing is that you're also helping the parents who are not able to see this happening to their child, and even the parents that are kind of like, I don't want to go to the cops because I'm embarrassed. No, you need to do this. You need to step out. You need to take this person off the streets. This person needs to go to jail. So you're not only helping the kids, but you're also helping the parents learn how to deal with this, because this is a process of dealing of pain. You know what I'm saying? So it's good, and I'm happy that you came to this podcast and discussed your story. I know, baby. But um, can you try your speaker? Try your speaker or your headset. Yeah, we're gonna check on this. How's that? No, you still can't. Okay. Well, we're gonna end this podcast. I want to thank you, Doriscarmen, for your incredible story of your daughter's pain and even your own pain, because you are the mother and you had to deal with this and go through this. So I just want to thank you very much for sharing your story at the podcast, and I wish you the best with your therapy and everything. Okay, thank you and have a good one.